listeners, thanks for joining in. Welcome to another HRO Today educational podcast. In this series, we aim to provide you the latest workforce management approaches and best practices in HR. I'm Debbie Bola, Vice President and Editorial Director of HRO Today magazine. Did you know that 85% of employees want flexibility at work, and flexibility is the number one reason people are leaving their jobs? It's true according to new research from Achievers Workforce Institute. The same study found that business leaders are wary of evolving to the new way of working, with 56% of HR leaders saying the C-suite doesn't recognize that attraction and retention has changed. But now is the time for organizations to pivot their strategies to include what today's worker wants. Because by creating the conditions for flexibility in the workplace, organizations will increase a sense of belonging, a key to the retention puzzle. So where should HR begin? Luckily, I have an expert here with me today to help answer that question and more. David Bader is Managing Director of the Achievers Workforce Institute, a strategic practice that focuses on research, community, and advisory to empower global HR executives with tactical, practical approaches to changing how the world works. Thanks, David, for joining me today. How important is flexibility to attraction and retention strategies?
It's great to be with you, Debbie. Well, I think the pandemic has really forced employees to be flexible and to be able to work from anywhere, to be more autonomous. If we think all the way back to Maslow, autonomy is a fundamental human need, and 2.5 years down the road, most employees are not willing to relinquish that autonomy. Achievers Workforce Institute just published a primary research report that spoke to thousands of employees and the HR leaders that guide their organizations, and it was focused on the tech-enabled employee experience. And we found that the overwhelming majority of employees, in fact 85%, want flexibility at work, and it's in fact the number one reason why someone is going to change jobs. I think when you look at that through the added lenses of record levels of resignation and labor shortages, it's a reality. Flexibility is a reality that organizations need to be mindful of. What's concerning is that of the more than 1,000 global HR leaders we spoke to in that same study, 56% said that their senior leadership do not understand that the world of work has changed. So our view here is that while we all love a one-size-fits-all approach to our people programs, I don't know that flexibility is necessarily something that scales. I think organizations are really going to need to invest in learning from both their frontline employees and their frontline managers through all different types of feedback channels to understand what work really needs to look like so that it works for them.
You said that 85% of employees want flexibility at work. So how would this flexibility foster belonging?
Well, speaking of fundamental human needs, look no further than belonging. Maybe just to back up a second, in my experience over the last 5 or 10 years, the terms employee engagement and employee experience have been used interchangeably, even though they have very different meanings. When we talk about employee engagement, what we're really talking about is an individual employee's commitment to doing the job they're paid for. And conversely, when we speak about the employee experience, we're really talking about the responsibility of leaders, of managers, of the whole organization to establish and maintain the conditions so that folks can be engaged in the first place. And I think we're all looking for secret ingredients for our employee experience programs, and our research shows that belonging is really the tie that binds everything together. In the fall of last year, of 2021, the Achievers Workforce Institute published a comprehensive model and found that organizations who invest to ensure that every day their employees feel welcomed, known, included, supported, and connected create belonging as an outcome. And in turn, our most recent research shows that when they do that, they drive 3x levels of trust, commitment, advocacy, and engagement. And so to my point about conditions, organizations really need to attend to all 5 pillars of our model to ensure that employees can achieve flexibility in a way that makes them feel they belong and are willing to go that extra mile.
It seems like belonging has an impact on everything. So what's its role in retention?
There's a ton of talk about labor shortages, a ton of talk about resignation, and with good reason. 66% of employees are actively looking for work. Just 41% feel valued in their work. Only 20% are engaged as of right now. And from my vantage point, organizations are often racing to fill empty seats at the expense of those they already have bums in. And so in a way, the siren song is to recruit the employees you already have by attending to those 5 pillars of belonging. So taking a lens out a little bit, when we talk about being welcome, that means as an individual, when I join a new team or the organization, am I introduced to, am I incorporated within the organization's culture and community? When I think about being known, that means, am I understood? Am I motivated? Am I celebrated and recognized as the individual that I am? Can I bring my whole self to work? When we think about being included, it means, am I valued? Am I accepted without reservation? Do I have an opportunity to maybe get a great idea heard by the right person in the organization? When we think of being supported, it means, am I consistently and am I meaningfully nurtured and developed during my tenure with my team or the organization as a whole? And when we think of being connected, last but certainly not least, it really means, can I develop, can I maintain relationships across a diverse population? And so I talked about that 3x multiplier for belonging. It extends to retention as well. We find that organizations who are attending to these 5 pillars and investing at the individual level are retaining their talent.
Now, all of the factors you just mentioned seem to play a large role in a positive employee experience. So how can developing an employee experience impact roadmap help achieve belonging and retention goals?
That's a great question. Employees who feel a deep sense of belonging at work really do reap great benefits that then in turn drive outcomes for the organizations that they work for. Specifically, we see that, employees who report a strong sense of belonging, they're more engaged at work, they have greater job satisfaction. But it's also true that they have better mental health, they have higher levels of productivity, lower levels of fatigue and emotional exhaustion. The truth is, while there are many definitions for employee experience and there are many strategic and tactical resources to develop and nurture a culture of belonging, our empirical and our business research points to a specific path to most effectively deliver on this goal of belonging. And I think there are 2 aspects of the employee experience that every HR leader should have in their toolbox so they're building experiences for employees that generates that sense of belonging. And I think the 2 are feedback and recognition. So if we start with feedback and continuous listening, they really have to be the starting point when striving to drive a rich sense of belonging inside of organizations. Long gone are the days where we can decide on high policies for the organization and cascade them down to feed the people that work for us. It just doesn't work that way anymore. And if we don't have real-time insight and input from employees, our leaders, our frontline managers, they just have no way of knowing if they're pulling in the right direction. Our 2022 engagement and retention report found that just half of employees say their organization has even asked them for feedback on their company culture, and only 18% say that the organization actually takes action on the feedback that they provide. So I can't stress enough how important listening is as a tool to both drive the employee experience and what it should look like, but also that ultimate goal of belonging. And our research shows that employees who are surveyed or asked for feedback more than 4 times a year, they have a stronger sense of inclusion and they have 50% higher levels of engagement. So that's feedback and listening. And the other tool is recognition. Our research shows that recognition is a really powerful driver of every single one of those 5 pillars of belonging that I was mentioning about: welcomed, known, included, supported, and connected. It also fosters greater trust and engagement at work. And in fact, ensuring someone who joins your organization or team, they get a welcome card from their teammates in the first week, or they get recognition at the end of their first week from their manager. Those are things that drive belonging. But I think more broadly, when we think of connection, this latest body of research really underscored the importance of connection in engendering a strong employee experience. When we think about recognition programs, it's great to receive the pat on the back, but the more you do it, what you're effectively curating is a catalog of the people and the skills inside an organization that can help someone remain productive and positive from anywhere. And so recognition, I think, and feedback are two key aspects in building an employee experience that not only fosters belonging, but drives the type of impact that's particular for each organization.
Having a strong employee experience that encourages talent to stay, that's some great advice, David. Until next time, listeners, I'm Debbie Bola.